we've got a good show planned. We're going to talk about a lot of different things and try to get some interaction from you guys on how you do some things and why you do them a certain way. So definitely looking forward to getting your all's input on that. I want to wish my son-in-law CJ a happy birthday, 27 today. Happy birthday, CJ. Uh, he is a manager with Amazon, so I'm sure he's not listening, but just thought I'd give him a big shout out. So went up to Lexington yesterday and had a dinner with him and Holly, and went to this place in Lexington called Pints and Pies, which obviously you get it. It's but they have really different styles of pizza and really different types of a lot of different beers and all. But it was really crazy. It was a great experience. Had a great experience there, but I don't know if people just don't. I don't know. I want y'all's input on this and for your all's market. This is something, and this has really got nothing to do with your market. But I'm just curious if it happens in your area. But as we were parking in downtown Lexington, there was I had street parking, which doesn't bother me, man. I drive an Expedition, but I can drive it, and I can parallel park the daggone thing. So anyway, there's a spot, and this one guy in this big truck is getting ready to pull out. Okay, but he's just sitting there, and I was going to let him pull out, and I was going to pull in, and but so he sat there. So then I started to back up to go ahead and do my parallel park maneuver, right? Well, then he's laying on the horn like, trying to, and he's motioning me to go, go, go. It's like, dude, I'm parallel parking. And I mean, it literally is just two maneuvers for me. I mean, it's simple. I mean, I'm parallel parked pretty well most of the time. And so, uh, so out of just not having him get road rage and get too frustrated, I just pulled on right and just looped the block. And I was coming back to parallel park in another spot, and this guy follows around me on the turn. So I put my blinker on. I mean, I don't know that's how I was taught to do it. You put your blinker on when you're going to parallel park, so somebody knows that hey, you're going into that spot. Now, maybe it's changed. I did not look in the driver's manual, but and this guy creeps right up on me, you know, and so then I put my emergency flashers on to give maybe a bigger hint that I was parking. And so I started to back up, and then this guy's laying on his horn. I'm like, dude, and at this point, I haven't even made a maneuver to get into the curbside. But like, do y'all not ever parallel park? I mean, don't you know? Hey, you put the blinker on the middle of the street with no streets to turn on and a slot open on the side of the street is a pretty good hint that somebody's going to try to parallel park. So, anyways, he's honking, honking, honking. I'm like, oh my God. So I drove around the block. And I mean, all this is happening when there's not a lot of traffic. There's, it just happened to be this guy wanting to pull out and then this other guy not understanding that I wanted to parallel park. But oh my God, I just wasn't going to get into it. I just wasn't going to, it wasn't going to be that day. It just wasn't going to be, and I wasn't going to allow it to be. So I pulled up and, I ended up paying $11 to valet park right there. And the guy really got upset when I stopped and start getting out of the car, and then he's really honking. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm valet parking now. I mean, if you're in that big of a hurry or you're having that bad of a day, just shoot yourself. I mean, good God Almighty. I mean, not literally, but I mean, you need to do something to have a better day. So I don't know. Evidently, both them boys was having a bad day, and good Lord. And then he got mad when I just pulled up the valet. But man, I had to get out of my car for that too. I'm sorry to disrupt your day. So that was my experience before we ever got into this Pints and Pies place we were going for dinner, and but man, their pizza was really good, really good, really good. A lot of different type of pizzas. What it was, it's not like just your traditional pepperoni or sausage or that that type of pizza. And CJ's gluten free, so they got a really good gluten free crust, evidently. So that's how we ended up there. But that's what my Sunday afternoon was like. Other than the parking adventure, it had a really great Sunday. Hopefully, your all's weekend it was good. I had a really good overall weekend. Ran around quite a bit. I will say that. Um, yeah, but Saturday went to watch my granddaughter play volleyball, and went back Sunday. They got into they played pretty well. They didn't lose a game Saturday, so they got into what's called the gold bracket, and they were playing gold bracket championship yesterday, which they did not win. They came in second, so that was all right. You know, not sitting there thinking, I don't know if I'd rather come in second in the gold bracket or first in the silver or bronze. I don't know. What do y'all think? Any of you guys got an opinion on that out there? Or girls, just guys meaning everybody. Uh, what about you, Katie? Would you rather come in second in the gold or win the silver or bronze? Oh no, it's going to boil down to whatever your feelings are that day, I guess. I don't know, Daniel. You got an opinion on that, or either way. I mean, but here's something neat I want to share with y'all that happened Saturday. And in volleyball, in these tournaments, they play the best of three. Okay, the best of three games. And one game, Brooklyn's team was down. I don't know, and I mean, and this is travel volleyball, so it's not like kids that can't play. Okay, but they were down um, 16-2, I think, 17-2. I don't know, 17-1. So, and they came back and won the game. Did you hear about that, Katie? Yeah, that was the biggest comeback I've ever seen. And I'm going to say any sports, because they played at 25, and I think it was end up they were like nine. It ended up the worst it was, but it was 19-3, But then they end up winning 25-19, and I've never seen a comeback like that. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. So that was a big comeback. They won that. Then because they had won the first game against this team, and then that second game that they played, they act like they hadn't seen a volleyball before for a minute, and then end up winning that. But then yesterday, here's the kicker, and this is the highs and lows of emotion. And the same thing happens. The same thing happens in business too. You have really great days, really bad days, and everything in between. But so yesterday they go to play for the championship. They played their first series, won that, and got into the championship game against this other team. And I watched this other team play first of all, and they were really, really good. They played the first game. And so, anyway, long story short, yesterday, the first game that they had against this team for the championship and the gold, they lost, meaning my granddaughter's team lost after the big turnaround the day before, giving them a really good high. They lost 25-0. I've never seen that. They did. Yeah, Katie said, "How do you not win a point?" The girl that started serving served out. Obviously, they couldn't. They yes or didn't win the vol. The few probably I would say
So if they rotate the serve even if on there.
They don't rotate the serve, but they didn't return any of the serves. Out of the 25 points they got in a row, I bet they probably only returned or volleyed maybe 7 or 8 times at the most.
Well,
So it was this little girl had a great serve, and it wasn't like it was a 180-mile-an-hour serve. It was just a lot of spin on the serve. They couldn't handle the serve. They couldn't, and you can't change rotation, right? That's the thing with most sports. If a position's having a problem, you know, so this was like, and it wasn't like they picked on the same girl, you know, over and over and over and over again. They did predominantly work on one one or two of them, but they just couldn't get a serve back. So they end up losing 25-0, and then the next game was a little more competitive. They lost, but they decided they were going to hit the ball back. But yeah, so the high and the low of that was crazy. Just from Saturday coming back from so far down, and then losing, not even scoring a point in the game, and it was pretty crazy. Like I said, I've never seen that. I've never seen that happen. You know,
it's
just
pretty
just personally.
impressive.
So yeah, it was something else to say the least. And so, anyways, and like we said, the same thing happens, in business with, you have really great day, you have a day that gets messed up, and um, but they all average themselves out. They average themselves out. So the moral of the story is don't give up, and you have a bad day, don't give up. You have a great day, don't think, hey, that's best it's going to be either, because things can change, to say the least, pretty quickly. So, with that being said, curious as to what you guys did over the weekend. We had thunder over Louisville here. It was a little bit drippy, but they got it in. And we look forward to our next Derby event coming up this weekend and whatnot, which I think is the balloon race, and they have a balloon glow, and then so we stay pretty busy around here the next few weeks till we get through Derby. But yeah, that was pretty exciting to say the least on that. So um, be curious to know what you guys might have done fun this weekend, and I got some really I don't want to call it terrible news because there's things that could be a lot worse, but got some bad news on lake season. So we're not only shut down this year again, next year's out. So I don't know what that means, but God, if I was running a business, you certainly would have to do a little better job than that.
Yeah,
You know.
it's pretty crazy.
Oh my God. So, anyways,
I think that's the most frustrating part of it all. It's not a complex issue.
yeah,
It's a very like, here's the problem. Just solve this and everything is fine.
yeah,
It's not like we got to solve world hunger.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a socioeconomic, geopolitical thing. It's let's just get some new hardware in the ground.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
really
yeah.
pretty
How
easy.
hard could it be? Yeah. I mean, but we've got a governor now that thinks he's going to be running for either president or vice president, and it's but we need a new parks commissioner for sure. So and then but I mean that leadership it starts at the top. So um, our governor Andy says he's never going to work any harder than he's worked, and to get in. So we'll see. Which I felt kind of interesting too. I'm thinking, dude, you're our governor first. Won't you just be our governor? You know. So, anyways, there's CJ sending me a thank you back for his happy birthday. I sent him this morning. They go roll in there pretty early, but anyways, hey Seth, appreciate you listening too. Appreciate you guys texting. Let me know you're in here and alive with us this morning. So we got a lot of good things we're going to talk about today. Like I said, we're going to figure it out we're going to figure it out. And I always try to relate things to business when they happen, whether it's athletically or just in general in life. And you can draw a correlation between a whole lot of it most of the time. So, uh, curious what you guys are doing today. We're doing a little bit of everything around here. We got a little mowing going on, some spraying going on. Got a little, let's see, I think Sigma Organics is bringing us some additional herbicides and things over today. So that's going to be a good sign. And thank you, Stephen, for that. And we're getting a little landscaping work done today. So, yeah, we're trying to get as many people happy as we can while we got this great weather going on. We got another good streak of weather, Daniel. Sounds like till Friday at least. So
There you go.
we'll see. We'll see how that all pans out. And big shout out to everybody's this morning. Turf Nerds hopping on there. Evan and Greg with their show, and Eric and Jennifer and Daniel. And here we are at profit time here on Turfs Up Radio. So appreciate each and every one of those show hosts getting on and getting us kicked off on this Monday morning, April 20th. You guys know I love the 20th around here because that's that's one of our contract billing days. Yes, indeedy. So get those invoices sent out. Yes, favorite day of the month. And I mean, we do our regular invoicing on any of our other work as we complete it. So, but it's just our contract billing. Most of that goes out on the 20th, and or the 15th, depending on where they're at. We kind of stagger that a little bit. So, but it's always early. We always get it out before the 30th, and we'll talk about that in the past, and we'll talk about it probably in the future on why we do it that way. But there is method to the madness. There is definitely method to the madness. And with that being said, let's take a short break. We'll be right back, and we'll get into some phone calls that we've had, and I want to get your all's opinion too on a lot of what we're going to talk about today. I always like your all's opinion, you know that, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity for everybody to get interactive. I know you guys are out working hard, and it's hard to do this time of the year, but we'll see how it goes. We'll be right back. I wanted to talk about some calls and things that we've had coming in, and one time services are just blowing up off the hook for mowing. It seems like we always get a lot, but it just seems like this year it's been an exceptional amount. And it seems like we've had a whole lot more people calling about seeding and aeration work late, this year. So just curious if you guys are, getting the same thing. Y'all getting a lot of seeding calls still? People call, hey, I'd like to get my yard, seeded. And I mean, here we are. I mean, we're definitely past when we want to do it. Unless I mean there's really some mitigating circumstances to it. But just curious if you guys are getting the phone calls like we are, on that side of it. Because I personally, we don't like doing them this late. I mean, because you get in and, you get them seeded, and now that they don't have irrigation, or even if they do have irrigation, we got a very shallow root system that we're trying to keep alive here in about 4 or 5 weeks when things are going to be getting pretty toasty, 6 weeks down the road, because let's look at the best case scenario. You seed a lawn today, for an example, and, you know, you get some decent germination and it's mowed a couple times within 30 to 45 days. Well, that's putting us right out there toward the end of May. And, by then we're probably going to start warming up a little bit. So, if somebody's not willing to baby it, and keep it watered and, take care of it, it can certainly be problematic to say the least. Mike said they're getting a lot of calls for dethatching, and seeding still. So I don't know. It's not like it was cold and these calls are coming late because the weather got a slow start. But I don't know what it is, Mike, either. It's just glad to have the phone calls. And like I said, some of them, we can convert to something else. But the reality of it is, on most of them, um, we're not we're not taking them on it right now. We'll tell them we'll be happy to take a look at it and get it scheduled for this fall for you. But I think Mike's right. He says they're getting on YouTube and seeing how to fix their lawns, and there you go. They get a video and they're calling for some help. In some cases, they're calling for some help. Anyway, I had a guy this morning that was definitely calling for some help. Felt kind of bad for him, actually. He uh let's see what we got here last week. Yeah, Seth, we're gonna talk about that too, that exact thing, here in just a second as well. So I'll save Seth's text here for a few minutes. But yeah, he said they're getting calls too. So, and it just seems like as early as our season kicked off, temperature wise and whatnot, that we wouldn't be this far into April and still getting all these seeding and aeration calls. And I don't mind aerating them. I just don't like seeding them. I mean, I just will do the aeration, but I'm certainly not interested in too much seeding work at this point, unless we got a really clear understanding on how things are going and what their responsibility is going to be, on the back side of that. But had a call this morning where a guy was trying to save a little bit of money and do his own weed control. And Katie, I don't know if you heard this conversation or not this morning. And guy was trying to save a little bit of money, so he went out last Thursday, sprayed some stuff on his yard, and he said, was turning yellow and all, but everything was turning yellow. And he said he looked at his bottle and he had bought the wrong stuff. He had bought a total grass and weed killer. So basically, he was spraying a Roundup type product on his yard where he thought he was just spraying a broadleaf weed control product on his yard. And to make matters a little bit worse, he's like, man, I just feel so stupid about this. And he said, I'm trying to have a graduation party here coming up, and can you help me? And I'm like, not really. I mean, graduation parties are, what, mid May, a month from now, realistically. And well, like Katie said, down to the side. So I mean that would be the thing. And that, we talked about that. What's the quickest fix? But I got to know too, what did you put down? I mean, if it was straight, glyphosate or something like that on a total kill, then our reseeding or sod time frame is going to be quicker than if it was just a broadleaf weed killer that he wanted too heavy of a rate on. And now we're going to have to worry about residual in the soil, and we don't have time for charcoal to neutralize things and get going again. So he's in a little bit of a pickle, and he understands that. But he's like, he said, what I should have probably done was called somebody like you all before this to spray my weeds, but I was trying to save a few dollars. So, Kyle brought that point up too. That yeah, spray paint it. Yeah, we did that one year for one of our corporations here, NTS. They were having a big derby gig, and grass hadn't greened up well, and they had a lot of Bermuda in it, and they were having a big derby party. So yeah, they had us come out and paint it. So and it worked. I mean, it worked effectively. But so this guy here, I mean, it's funny. I didn't even bring up the painting side of it for him, but I mean that could be an option, to get him through that side of it. Uh, Mike said his lawn's as smoked as Bob Marley. Yeah, That's true. True that, Mike. So we'll see what we can try to do to help the fella. I did ask him if he, if he had his stuff handy. I said, "Can you tell me, do you have that bottle?" He says, "No." He said, "It's out in my garage." He said, "I'll go grab it and take a look at it and call you back." And it's been, I don't know, an hour and a half ago now, a couple hours maybe. So I think he might be in trouble, Daniel. So he's he was going to look at what it was and what the reseeding period was and give us a call. So we'll certainly try to help the guy out. I mean, I really do want to try to help the guy, you know, but I don't know what we'll be able to do. So if he wants to go the seeding route, we talked about the frustrations on that side of it. And Seth, to your point in your text, that's it. I mean, Seth said he turned down a gentleman last week who wanted seating, and then the guy got offended. And that does happen. This guy did not get offended. He knew it was on him. But the reality of it is, when you get calls like this and you try to tell people the truth, and hey, this is what your best option is. It they call it seeking advice, and I guess here's the question really: when somebody calls you as the professional seeking advice, and they don't hear the answer that they want to get, why do sometimes they want to develop an attitude on why you should tell them what they want to hear? I don't understand that. I really don't. It's one of those things I will never really understand it. I mean, we'll tolerate it, right? Because I mean, we have to. But at the end of the day, when you call a professional seeking their advice, then the thing is, heed that advice. I mean, you may want to call for a second opinion, call somebody else, and I do that with people a lot of times when they act like they're not believing what I'm telling them. I'll say, hey, you don't have to believe me. You can Google it or you can call somebody else. I said, but if you're going to check what we're telling you here at WLS, Google it because we're going to give you solid advice. I said, I don't know what kind of contractor you may be calling otherwise that may be hungry and want to, hey, I just thought they'll sell you an overseed or a power seeding job, knowing it's not going to be effective, but it's going to generate cash flow. So, and I tell people that to beware of that, because a lot of that does go on, and we have to make better business decisions sometimes as owners on, are we going to do what's best for our business or what's best for our customer? And you should always do what's going to be best for your customer long term, because that long term loyalty is going to far outweigh a short term invoice that's sent out that the work doesn't turn out the way it was supposed to, and it's not, but it was a way to bill out a X number of dollars of work. So don't fall into that trap either. I mean, we get a lot of weird calls and we get people that, they want us to do something and we know we shouldn't do it. But like that gentleman said, he said, man, I was just trying to save a few dollars. He said, I got on my lawnmower, set it on its slowest speed, and just drove around the yard. And I, was initially going to spray a few things. And he said a few things became more things. And then I thought, well, hey, I'm going to spray a little more. And he said, to the tune of about 60% of his yard's dead now. And he's trying to figure out what he's going to do, Daniel. So it ain't the worst thing in the world, though, right? I mean, that's what I told him.
Yeah.
He could have had a lot of worse things come up, but we'll see. We'll see. But I did have a guy too tell me recently. He's like, "What if I pay you 25%, 30% more? Can you get my yard looking better faster?" And The reality of that is, no, not necessarily. I mean, more money isn't necessarily going to fix the problem faster. Now seed to sod would, like Katie said, hey, we can sod it. But I'm really not sure this guy's going to want, because when I talked about sod with him, he was like, well, that's going to be a lot more expensive, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, and he's like, well, I'm not really sure I want to do that. Let's see. On a positive note, Mike says he successfully completed the first step of a renovation.
There
And
you go.
all joking aside, Mike, that's really what I told him too. I said, hey, go ahead and spray the rest of it. I definitely wouldn't stop at 60, 70% now.
Yeah.
I'd just
It's
do
like
a
doing a
total.
part of a haircut and walking around with the rest of it long.
Yeah,
You went in, you might have meant to do a little bit of just a little upkeep, but then all of a sudden half your head shaved. So you gotta just shave the rest.
just go ahead and do it all. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what the guy ends up doing, but I do feel sorry for him because I can see guys say, "Hey, man, I'm just going to go get some of this. I'm going to spray some. I'm going to spot spray it, and everything will be good by the time May graduation rolls around." And now he's got this to deal with, and I don't know. We didn't get into the spousal part of this that may be involved. Like, oh my God, what have you done to the yard? But he said what he said the product he sprayed's working good because he said he did it Thursday afternoon and a lot of it's browning up pretty quickly. So uh, yeah, true that, Seth. The party's not this weekend, so he does have time to figure something out. So, anyways,
I mean, this would be, if you're into the high pressure sales tactics, this would be, a great time to use some of that because
oh yeah,
here's what you can do. You can either have a dead yard or you can spend, three times more than what you wanted to spend.
yeah, we can definitely solve this problem for you. We can come out, you know, cut the dead off, resod it, and get you squared away by party time, you know. And but again, he kind of knows that that's one alternative, but he doesn't want to throw that kind of money at it.
Yeah.
But
This would be a good opportunity for almost like a rent-a-side,
yeah,
where you come in the morning of, or the day before, put it down, and then the next day after the party, come and take it
come
back
and
and
take it back up,
use it for somebody else's side later
rent
on.
a sod or rent a turf, or
Yeah.
gosh, God, there's probably something maybe like that out there, Daniel. You know, you probably wouldn't want to do the real stuff, but maybe something come in and roll it out and let us get you squared away for your party, and then tomorrow we'll be back to pick it up. Kind of like those balloon things the kids bounce on a bouncy party. Only it's something deeper than that for sure. Uh, let's see. Yeah, true that. Mike said best case scenario for him that it just rains on party day. You know, either way, you know, but and I can't imagine it being that crazy. I think it's working on him more than it's really a bad event, you know. But we'll see what he does. We'll see what he decides to do, and I'll keep you guys posted too. But just an opinion thing with you guys too, and I appreciate y'all's text on this for sure. But getting back to the aspect of when a client asks a question and you don't give them the answer there's a song like that. Don't ask me what I think of you. You might not get the answer you want to. Uh, but when a client, does call or a potential client calls, you know, we've got, I don't know, a couple, Katie, you mentioned it, that they take just a few apps a year, but then it always seems like as we're rolling into summer, they're wanting to call and talk about weed issues, and how do you guys handle it? I know we touched on it the other day briefly, but will you go back and make another application, or does somebody have to be on your full program in order to get free return trips? And I mean, that's predominantly the way we work with it. I mean, if somebody's not on our full program, we do not offer a free return trip. I mean, I know we just talked a little bit about this in a different light the other day, but when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want 3 applications a year," well, there's certainly not going to be any type of expectation of full season weed control with that. You know, let him know that if he waits until he's sleeping in the garage with the chemicals, it may be late on both ends. True that, Corey. True that. True that. Oh my God. How about it? Hey, you guys do landscaping. I know a lot of you guys out there listening to us do a lot of landscaping work as well. I'm curious about this. How much do you run into? How much do you run into from a landscaping perspective where people tell you, "Hey, I want this plant," and a couple things come up. Either it's the wrong plant for our zone or your zone, and or they're wanting to put it in a growing environment where it doesn't work generally. In other words, hey, are they trying to get a dogwood tree to look as great in full sun as it would under the canopy or some shade of some other tree? That's just one example. Maybe it's some hostas, maybe it's some daylilies being misplanted. Maybe it's hydrangeas. You know, but do you guys have any problem with people and plants and what they think they want and what they should really have in a particular area being two different things? Let's see.
You're going to know this better than I do, but this feels like a modern problem more so than it even used to be.
Than it used to be.
Because it used to be, I feel like people would walk down the street, would drive down the road, see a landscaping, get ideas, say that looks good, I like this plant. Now it's Pinterest and Facebook and all the areas online to where you're looking at something in another part of the country or even another part of the world,
Yeah.
that looks great, but sorry, we don't, that's something that grows in Miami or Cuba or
Right, right.
South America or Japan.
To your point, Daniel, that is absolutely 100% true. You didn't have all of that input from the client, or not most of them, before Google, if you will, and whether it's Chat GPT or whatever it is, you just didn't have all that input, and some of that input's good, but it can get problematic when they're, like you said, they're seeing something that's either outside a zone or it's outside a environment that we're trying to get it to grow in, or they want to put a certain plant and have rocks as the rather than mulch or pine straw, and then it's too much heat for that type of plant, coming up off the rocks or vice versa. So, yeah, Google has made landscaping a little more challenging. Now, what it also has done, it's made it a lot easier for contractors that don't know anything too. Hey, what can I do here? What can I plant here? You know, so that's the other side of that as well. Let's see. Mike says full program or pay a premium to make additional applications. Yeah, I agree, and that's pretty much the way we do it as well, Mike. I mean, it's you got to be on our full program, you know, and then we'll do something different for you, and or depending on when you're up in that next round, come back and get it sprayed.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's like kind of going to like a all you can eat buffet.
yeah,
It's like, well, you didn't buy the all you can eat buffet ticket. You just bought, a chicken sandwich from the entree menu. But now
yeah,
you're saying you're still hungry, but you
yeah,
wanted to get one chicken sandwich instead of paying 3 times as much for the all you can eat, but not be hungry afterwards.
yeah. That's a very valid point. too. I mean, it's a good way of looking at it. And here's another one. Uh, Found struggles on expectations on the after without any of the before. In other words, meaning like, let's see, like they expect the finished product right after it, and it's a 3 year grow in process, and that is a big issue, and that's something that we try to really uh, go over potential landscape clients with. You know, when we're talking about a new landscape being installed, that we're not going to come in here and plant this thing full to your to self gratification now, because then 3 years from now everything's going to be grown together and you're going to be throwing rocks at us and telling us to come in here and what in the world, why is all this stuff grown together? So I think that's where we have to do our due diligence as landscapers. And I'm not saying you got to start with a very small plant. If you're starting with larger plants, that's fine. If their budget dictates the fact that you can start with some fairly decent sized plant material, that's fine. But still know that we got to think about proper spacing. And what's it look like now? What's it look like in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? And with a lot of the software now, we can show them that progression, but some people still want that instant gratification, and that's okay too. If they want some instant gratification, we can put some nice big stuff in for people, but it takes obviously more money to get that done. It's like those trees we put in for that guy the other day. I mean, they were those. God, I'm trying to think of what they were, but those that yeah, that variety of arbs this guy wanted that, and the green giant because he wanted something like right away that was going to block out his neighbor pretty quick and continue to block his neighbor and get really big and block his neighbor. And they were having a issue with neighbors. So there's always something, and the problem can generally always be solved. You know that's the thing too. We can generally solve the problem that somebody's having, but we got to be willing. Are they willing to spend the money to get the problem solved in a timely fashion like that? You know, and something that we struggle with too with a lot of customers is they think sod's going to be their solution for shade problems and or dog problems or excessive kids, traffic big on that turf. They think, well, can't you just go ahead and sod it and get it taken care of? When the reality of it is, you can't. Sod's a quick fix,
Yeah,
right?
but it's
But if it's shade or dogs or whatever it may be, it may not be the permanent solution.
great.
You know,
Well,
it
yeah, there was a they had grass there, assuming it was grass growing there before. But to
right.
talk more specifically about the traffic problems, you had grass there, and then you had traffic, and then you didn't have grass. So to think that having grass there again is going to keep you from not having grass there later is
Yeah,
obviously not thinking the whole thing all the way through. Um, you know, I think sod though has just like such a grip on people though because it like takes part of that process out. It takes part of that waiting out that you're talking about with the
yeah,
landscaping. It's like it's instant gratification.
yeah. There it is. It's done. It's good. But it's still. And then with different management, maybe you can keep it growing and or better longer. But it's not like you can just sod it and be done. You know, uh, it's dogs, especially dog runs along fence lines. They're like, well, can you just sod it? Well, yeah, we can, but if we don't change the habit of the dog of running the fence line, which you're not,
Yeah. You're not
you're
solving
not
the problem.
you're
You're
not
fixing a
solving the
symptom of the problem. So
yeah
the symptom's going to keep coming up unless you solve the problem.
Yeah. So, so it's a lot of little things come up, especially this time of the year. Where people, they invest the time and effort and money into getting things replaced, but just they don't realize that it's the ongoing part of that maintenance and the ongoing work that's got to make it work. Uh, let's see, they don't have time for you to parallel park. Now they want turf immediately. True that. That is a really good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. People want that instant everything.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
and they want people generally want things both ways. You want to have both things. You want to have the nice yard, but you don't want to have to pay for it. You want to have this, but you don't have to wait for it. You want to have a good landscape, but blah blah blah. So, I mean, it's just the human condition, and how do we, as businesses, overcome part of human psychology is, I
Yeah.
guess, the struggle for every industry.
And it is. It is. I mean, the health is easy. Everybody do it, right? I mean, that's what we always say. If it's easy, everybody do it, you know? But speaking of, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Here, and there's one other thing I want to talk about a few minutes today is controlling the volume of work that you schedule. You know, why do contractors, not all of them, okay, but why do contractors, a lot of them, overschedule the amount of work they can do? And what I mean is, I pulled this thing offline. I know you guys can't see me with it, but this guy says, and super nice guy, okay. He said, this week I've got 4 days of worth of mowing, a day of mulching, and 3 days of spraying that I need to get done. Anybody know how to fit that into 5 days? So I got 4 days of mowing, a day of mulching, and 3 days of spraying.
I
How
mean,
do I fit that into five
good luck
days?
fitting that into 7 days, right? Because that obviously equals 8 days. So
Mm-hmm.
even even doing all that you can do, utilizing all your time resources of a week, you're still too much. I mean, forget 5 days. Sometimes okay, things might happen and we might have to work a Saturday, or maybe you just love doing it and you work 7 days a week, whatever. But not recognizing not even your own limitations, but just the natural limitations is a big problem. I mean, that's time,
That
but also what other limitations are you not accounting for?
yeah.
That's something else to think about.
Well, and that's just it. And somebody said, "Well, try hiring some more people." And he says, "Well, I've tried that. That didn't work." Well, then now this is on you because you've oversold the capacity of work
And
you can get done.
and it's no wonder why it hasn't worked. Probably because we know that in this industry, finding good people with experience that can go do everything that you need them to do on their own right away is very unlikely. It's, a very
Right.
small pool of people that can do that. So you haven't given yourself any time to slow down with someone and train them because you have to work 8 out of 7 days in a week. So
Yeah.
just like you've
8 out of 7. That's it.
that's what you've done. You've literally scheduled, more days of work than there are days.
Yeah. And
And
whose
and
fault is
and
that?
you
Yeah,
expect that
that's right.
you can't find anybody good, but that's because you think that people should just come in and have the same mentality as you and the same skills and the same this, that, and the other, but they don't, and so then they're gone. And maybe that's because they don't know what to do, but that's also because you haven't and you don't have the time to train them. So
Right.
you're working the problem. You're trying to build the what's the thing that where you build it and then the house of cards. You're trying to build the house of cards from the top, and it doesn't work like that. You don't have the foundation of let me get one person in here, two people in here, and then we can add some more work on, and then let's get another person in here, and then we can add some more work on. You're trying to do it the opposite way, and obviously, as you're finding out, it's not working.
Right. So in the meantime, stop scheduling so much work.
Yeah, I
That's
would certainly
easy.
would just turn your phone off at this point. There's
You
no
know,
sense in.
I mean, why, yeah, why put your customers through it? Why get them mad at you? And, all those things so anyways, it is what it is. And that we seem to do that quite a bit as an industry for some reason that I'm not sure why, but we do it. So, Uh, my best answer to that for you, Mike, and I wasn't going to post it online, but I'll certainly talk about it here because it is a problem that a lot of contractors have is overbooking their work with and don't have the capacity, to get it done. I mean that's the reality of it. So it is springtime in the industry. I mean, that's just always what it is. It's hectic. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of new work being put on. It's some work being, taken off the books. It's trying to keep up with the billing side of things. It is. It's just a very busy time of the year for all of us. But the thing is, we can do it. You can do it. I can do it. We can all do it, but let's don't put the undue pressure on ourselves of 8 days of work and you want to get them done in 5, even though you're probably willing to work 7, but you still got 8 days. So it can't get done. So don't put yourself into that position. That's how we solve the problem is we don't get there in the first place. And then once we understand that, that's how and why our lives get better, our businesses get better. And hey, if you say, hey, you've tried that, you're not going to get into hiring people. Nothing, nobody ever wants to, be consistent or show up or work. I get that. Then don't sell the work. Just that simple. Don't sell the work or figure out a way to get the work done. Maybe that's the subcontract network. Maybe it's not finding somebody to work with you, it's finding another contractor to work with you where you can, hey, put that on their plate. Hey, they're going to do that mowing or they're going to do that spraying or they're going to do that mulching for you. You know, yeah, you got to give up some of the margin. You can always come up with a zillion reasons on why you don't want to do that too. So now you're just being excuse oriented. So if you want to do all the work yourself and you like the quality that you put out and you want it to be you doing the work, then take the easy road. And the easy road is stop selling the work. You know, it's easy to say yes. The work, there's more than a work out there for every one of us, regardless of the size of our companies. But what we got to be smart enough to do as owners and managers is know where the backstop's at. And at what point does it become too much work and now we're getting more people mad at us than happy with us, and that's not worth the income and the dollars that are generated. Create loyalty by offering exceptional service and timely service. You guys have heard me say it a lot of times, on our trucks, and our biggest part of our advertising simply is we show up. you know Figure out what makes you different and better than your competitor. So, with that being said, appreciate all y'all's texts today. Appreciate all you guys listening to us here on Turfs Up Radio. Be sure to listen all day long. Share Turfs Up Radio with your friends. And as always, remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you Wednesday.